So we're going to soften the gaze or close the eyes. Working to quiet the mind. Take a moment here in stillness. And when we talk about stillness, it's not only for the body itself, but the mind and the thoughts. So becoming present with where you are this morning. Feel free to set an intention if you'd like for your practice. We're going to take a few more breath cycles here. See if you can soften the shoulders just a bit. And we're going to start our movement this morning with those hip circles. Slow and controlled movements, and those circles can be just small little micro movements, or you can take them deep if you'd like. Start to sync the breath with the movements. Maybe exaggerate the cat-cow pose as you're coming forward and back. Just consciously moving the belly as well. So really extending and then pulling that belly button to spine. Starting to warm up the organs, the spine. And go ahead and reverse the direction. And hopefully you're feeling a nice grounding down through the sit bones. And let's bring it back to center. We're going to go ahead and take the legs wide. Your version. Being mindful of the knees here. And then sitting up nice and tall, let's slowly start to walk the fingertips out in front. So pulling the crown towards the mat here, really find length through the spine. And then option to keep the spine flat, or you can round the spine and tuck the chin. Just finding the best little tug there on the back side. Coming into a space where you can rest comfortably. We're going to hold for a minute. And each exhale, we're allowing the body to sink deeper into the pose. Notice if you're holding any tension in the face or along the jawline or the brow line. I like to rest the tongue on the roof of the mouth, which helps soften the face. Gently start to bring the torso up, bringing that head over heart. We'll take just a couple breaths here, sitting up nice and tall. Pull the shoulders down away from the ears. And from here, we're going to find that butterfly pose. So bringing the soles of the feet together. And then adjust the distance of the heels to the groin. Just finding the space where you have a nice, comfortable stretch. Being mindful of the knees. Nice connection down through the sit bones. And then option to bring that gentle fold here as well. Feel free to apply a little bit of pressure on the inner legs. You can deepen the stretch. Notice the quality of the breath as it's coming and leaving the body. And slowly we're going to come up and out of the pose. We're going to bring the knees so they're pointing up towards the sky, soles pressed to the mat. Take a couple breaths here. And from here, we're going to make our way to all fours. So we're going to do a little cat-cow flow. We're going to do a little knee lunge. So feel free to grab some extra cushion for those knees. Coming to this neutral position, we're stacking the wrists under the shoulders and the knees under the hips. And this is going to be an organic movement of whether it's cat, cow, child's pose, or even if you want to take it side to side. Just finding what movement works for you, but also incorporating the breath. So as you inhale, drop the belly, lift the heart. Exhale, round the spine and tuck the chin. And then I'm going to inhale, send the hips back to the heels. Exhale, round it back up. And then just continuing that cycle, but feel free to make it your own. The idea is that we're moving slowly and moving with intention. Hopefully identifying those areas that really feels yummy as you're moving back and forth. And let's take one more round here wherever you are. And I'll meet you back in that tabletop pose. And let's go ahead and stretch the wrist just a little bit because we are going to be on the hands and knees for a few more poses. So I like to place the back side of the hands down to the mat and fingertips pointing towards the body, but you can roll the wrists, lots of different variations here, really listening to the body and being mindful, being sure that you're not forcing any of the movements. Our hands are active all the time, all day, and they don't get quite enough love in the stretching department. Let's bring it back to all fours. We're going to take a modified side plank here. So I'm going to start by extending the left toes straight back and then pivoting so I'm resting on the inner edge of that left foot. Left arm comes up and over. So visualize a nice straight line from the fingertips to that left heel. Strength and balance here. And we're going to be here for 6 breaths, so feel free to come in and out as you need to. And taking the next few breath cycles, we're going to come into a low lunge. So that left foot is going to come to the top of the mat. And feel free to make this more of a dragon pose if you like. So bringing the left foot towards the left edge of your mat or keeping it centered, whatever you prefer. Lots of variations here. So I'm going to actually bring my hands to rest on the top of my thigh, but feel free to leave them on the mat or a block. If you want something really deep, you can even bring in a twist if you like. So wherever you are, we're going to let the hips sink low towards the earth. Nice active breath. Soften the shoulders wherever you are. We'll be here for 4 more breaths. And with your next exhale, we're going to find that half split. So shifting the hips back, left toes are going to come to point upwards. As always, just explore a little bit before you find that stillness. It's about what feels right for you and your body. And from our half split, we're going to come into a pigeon pose. So still keeping that left leg up front, just walking the hands up, making adjustments, taking a couple breaths, keeping that right leg extended. We're going to take a few breaths in our pigeon pose before we find that sleeping swan. So lift that heart space up. Let's take a nice deep breath here. Really fill the belly, fill the lungs. And a slow extended exhale. We're going to find that soft fold. And the idea here is to find some comfort. So really softening and surrendering into the shape. Body's nice and heavy. And we're going to come up and out. Take as much time as needed so that you can transition intentionally, coming back to all fours. We're going to take that little flow to the opposite side. So starting with your cat-cow or any other movements that you'd like to incorporate. We're going to take 6 rounds here, nice and slow. Really feel the movement as you start from the tailbone. Stretching both sides of the body. And hopefully you're noticing a little bit more looser movements. I know when I start practicing in the morning, it's impossible to get those sit bones back to the heels just because of the knees, tightness throughout the spine. And let's finish wherever you are, and we'll come back to that neutral pose. And this time we're going to extend the right toes. Really reach, find some length through that right leg. And then when you're ready, pivot so you're resting on the inner edge of that right foot. And we're going to find that modified side plank. Take your time. Let go of any self-expectations. And even if you can find it and hold it for just a few seconds. with your next out breath, we're going to make that transition to your dragon pose or that low knee lunge, making it your pose. Tons of variations with the arms. You can even bring in a twist if you like. And wherever you are, we're going to relax the shoulders down, relax the hips down. Like gravity is just pulling you into the earth here. And then nice and slow, let's find that half split pose, bringing the right toes up towards the sky. Shifting the hips back. And you can keep the spine flat or you can round and drop the head. You'll notice different sensations. And when you're ready, taking a couple breath cycles to find that pigeon pose. So shifting the right leg, keeping the back extended. Just ensuring that the knee is happy. Always keeping the knees happy. And we'll take a couple breath cycles, leaving that heart lifted. Open up the throat. Maybe a nice couple vocal exhales. And let's start to slowly soften. And then when you're all the way down to your level, really make a conscious effort to just soften, to just melt into the earth here. And pressing the palms into the mat, palms under shoulders. Let's start to lift that heart space. Take one final stretch through the left toes, really reach back behind the body. And from here, we're going to come into our Sphinx pose. So move nice and slow, being kind to your body. And we'll just hold our Sphinx pose for a few breaths here. And we're going to stretch out those shoulders a bit. So we're going to come into that scorpion pose. So bringing the head all the way down to the earth. And let's start by bringing the left arm out to a T. Gently and slowly, we're going to start to adjust. So we're getting a nice shoulder stretch through the left side, resting on the left side of the body. I like to play around a little bit with the top leg. You can find a little stretch through the hips here as well. And as always, avoiding any pain. So if it doesn't feel good, definitely back out and find your own modification. It's also feeling quite lovely on my spine this morning as well. Let's come back to center. Take just a few breaths here before we take it to the other side. Let the belly push you up off the mat as you take that big inhale. And then when you're ready, we're going to take it to the other side. So extending that right arm. Slowly coming to rest on the right side of the body. And then play around just a little bit with that top leg. And gently roll it back to center. And take just a couple breaths here, softening into the mat. And when you're ready, we're going to roll over to the back side. Just coming into that supine position. Take a couple more breaths here. Just notice how the body is feeling. And with your next exhale, we're going to hug that left knee into the heart space. Just for a couple breaths here. let's slowly start to extend. So feel free to bring a bend into that right knee, keeping it extended, keeping that right leg extended as we're pressing that left sole up to the sky. Can be pretty intense. Make any adjustments. And let's drop it down so you're coming into that half happy baby. Grabbing whatever's accessible, really drawing that left knee down towards the earth. Getting deep into the hip here. Slowly release. Let's go ahead and bring the left leg to meet the right leg. Coming back to that supine pose. And when you're ready, we're going to bring the right knee up towards the chest. Just for a few breaths here, give yourself a nice squeeze. And we're going to slowly start to extend the right. So visualize the sole pressing up to the sky. Even if it's only a half fold or wherever you are, a lot of times visualization can help us really sink into the pose and allow it to take shape, to be present, to find the gratitude of where our body is today. And let's find that slow movement into half happy baby. And let's slowly bring the left up. We're going to come into a full happy baby. Grabbing what's accessible. Find a little gentle movement here, letting that back relax and release. Drawing both knees down towards the earth. I invite you to take a few deep breaths here, long extended exhales. Notice how the spine is nice and heavy on the earth. Just letting the backside decompress with each exhale. And let's bring everything back to center. We'll come back to that supine pose. And before we end our practice, we're going to actually bring in a couple spinal twists here. I just feel like my back is needing it this morning, so I'm going to bring the knees to the left and just take a nice deep stretch here. I'm not going to be here long, but feel free to hold a little longer if you like. This is one of those nourishing poses for my body, as well as that cat-cow movement. Seems to bring lots of love and all the necessities to the spine. And I'm going to slowly shift it to the other side. Nice big stretch, like that first stretch when you wake up in the morning. And let's bring everything back to center. And feel free to take a nice big stretch if you need before we come into that final resting pose. And we're going to come into that space of stillness and just allow everything to be quiet for a few minutes before we get started with our day. And slowly start to wiggle those fingers and toes. Take your time as we come back to a seated position. Namaste. Thanks for practicing with me this morning.